Welcome to the OZone.
Welcome to the OZone.
Welcome to the OZone. Welcome to the OZone.
The voice of Magic fans.
Welcome back to another episode of the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans, episode number 11. What's up, boys?
What's
How's
going
it
on?
going, fellas?
How's it going?
What's going on, guys?
First podcast of the new year. Today we are doing it a little bit different. Justin is fortunate enough to be on vacation right now, and so we're not doing this podcast live in the studio. We are doing it virtually. So if we sound a little different, that is the reason why. But Justin, how's your vacation going?
It's going good, man. Went to go to Atlanta, check out some family, and now I'm in Tampa. I'm happy.
Happy in Tampa. That's what I like. How's everyone's New Year's?
It was off the chain. I had a good time. Little
Yeah.
pool party, playing some music, little DJ action. It was a good time. A lot of good family and friends.
My question is, how come we didn't get an invitation to this pool party?
Right?
That's
with my
right.
party.
That's
Hey,
see
everyone's
how it
invited.
is, Whit.
I told y'all, everyone's invited all the time.
I need a personal invitation.
Done.
So guys, let's jump into it. So let's just do a round table to see who we have in the building. So Justin,
Yo,
got Al,
What's going on?
Mark,
Yo.
Whit,
What's happening?
and myself, Anthony. So the last couple podcasts we've been doing the segment in the OZone where, this allows the listeners to kind of get to know us a little bit, see our perspectives, and see how we are on a more personal level. And this week, I wanted to ask a question that I honestly feel tells a lot about the individual. And it's pretty simple. Who is your all-time favorite basketball player? All time. Now, I will warn you, be very careful on who you choose.
Hey, I'm going to go with the Admiral David Robinson from Key West, Florida. That's my guy.
is he really from Florida? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's from Key West.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Why is David Robinson your favorite player of all time?
Hey, he came out the gates. First of all, great character. Big in the community and taking care of people around him, and all around great guy. But and when he was on the court, he was dominant. He had an inside outside game, defense. I mean, he went up against everybody. He's a legend.
He's has a great character. He's a legend. He's one of the main reasons why we couldn't steal Tim Duncan away from the San Antonio Spurs.
That's right.
Yeah.
That would have changed everything for our franchise. Damn it, Admiral. All right.
For me, it's gotta be Vince Carter. If you guys know me, you guys all know that's my guy. He's the reason why I watch basketball. I've been lucky enough to watch him play for 23 years, which is surreal to me. So he's my guy, man. He's the one guy that, again, turned me into the NBA, and it's gonna be weird next year with him retiring to watch the NBA and know that Vince Carter's not on a team.
Yeah, and Vince Carter is the first basketball player in the NBA ever to play in 4 different decades.
That's incredible.
Half man, half amazing. For sure.
For me, it's going to be Tony Parker. I love his game. He wasn't tall. He wasn't super athletic, but he found a way to get into the basket against these opposing bigs, especially in his time. Nowadays, I think he'll drop 40 points against today's bigs, against today's NBA rules for how soft it is. But his game, man, is so slick and smooth. The European basketball style of play.
That's another Frenchman. Aren't you a big Evan Fournier fan also?
Maybe no. I'll leave that to the Justin over here. Now me.
No, I was gonna say my favorite player of all time is Evan Fournier. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we actually
definitely.
believe that.
Don't do that because I would believe it.
Definitely my favorite player of all time is Carmelo Anthony. We come from, similar backgrounds, grew up in Brooklyn, which is where I'm from. One of the greatest offensive players of all time. I remember there used to be a debate between Melo and LeBron. And for me, Melo was always the easy answer because I felt like he could score on anybody and there was nothing you could do to stop him. But that is definitely my favorite player of all time, and I'm happy that, he's back in the league with Portland, winning Player of the Week honors out west, which is a big deal. That's forever going to be my guy.
And he's part Puerto Rican.
That's true. Can't go wrong with that one.
And don't we need a small forward right now?
I was preaching to deaf ears, telling people that Melo should have came out here, but Portland picked him up, and Portland's thriving right now.
So for me, my all-time favorite basketball player, and this might be a hot take, but it's Trace McGrady. To me, Trace McGrady is a player, and I'll fight this with anybody, is a player that is, in my eyes, better than Kobe Bryant, right? He was a player back then that no one can stop him. He can score whenever he wanted. He was so good that people thought he was lazy. Crazy to believe it. He's a player that he carried this franchise on his back. Just the thought and the imagination of he was this close to playing with a Tim Duncan and a Grant Hill together. It would have changed everything of how this franchise is viewed. I still remember one of my all-time favorite plays that he had was in the All-Star game where he threw it off the backboard and everyone went crazy. It's the first time anyone's really seen anything like that. One of my all-time favorite moments from him wasn't even when he wore a Magic uniform, but it's when he scored 13 points in 33 seconds against the San Antonio Spurs. That highlight, if you haven't seen it, it was like a video game. It was an out-of-body type of moment for him. Even when he talks about it, he still doesn't believe that it happened. So Trace McGrady was that guy for me. He was able to carry us over with players like Darrell Armstrong and Mike Miller, and he's part of that hard and hustle era.
I got to play against him in high school.
You played against Trace McGrady in high school?
Yeah, when he was a freshman in high school. I was a senior.
Did you dunk on him?
Nice.
Hell no. No one knew who he was. He lit us up. And it was pretty special to see, like, whoa, who was that guy? We were looking at another teammate of his. He was a freshman that was 7 foot tall. That's who I had to guard, but he was something special from the jump.
Yeah, I didn't play against Trace McGrady, but I played against Trace McGrady's cousin, and he lit us up in high school. So I can only imagine how that was.
Vince Carter?
Nah. It was a second cousin.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So it's really, really good to know where we stand. We have 2 San Antonio Spurs fans, like undercover Spurs fan.
I did not know that.
I know, right? You're hiding it.
Yeah, that's my second favorite team.
Let's go on the record that there's only 2 of us that actually said Orlando Magic players.
I mean,
That's true.
Shaq's right behind David, but All right. So what we got on the agenda today?
So today's episode, we have so much to talk about. I feel like there was just a lot of things that happened in the Magic world this past week. But before we get into the gritty stuff, let's jump into the numbers. So currently our record is 16-20. Believe it or not, we are still holding the 8th seed in the East. Our offense points per game is 103.3, which has us 30th in the league. 3-point percentage, 33.5%, which has us at 27th. Offensive rating, 104.7, which has us at 26th in the league. Defense points allowed, 104.2, second in the league. Block 6.4, which has us 4th. And defensive rating, 106.1, which has us 10th. This past week, we play against the Hawks, the Wizards, the Heat, the Jazz, and a lot of ups and downs, right? So the first game was a loss against Atlanta. We lost 101-93. Most disappointing loss of the season. We blew an 18-point lead to the Hawks team that didn't have Trae Young. Vucevic led the way with 27 points, and Fournier scored 22. We did manage on that Wednesday to beat the Wizards, which kind of seems like a season theme for us. Every time we play them, we kind of have their number, 122-101. It was a solid overall win in a game in which, unfortunately, we lost Jonathan Isaac early in the game due to an injury. Augustine led the way with 25 points and 9 assists. Big-time game from him. Vucevic added 20 points and 12 rebounds, and Markelle bounced back after struggling the last couple of games, finishing with 16 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds. Really big game for Markelle. On Friday was a massive win for us against the Miami Heat, 105-85. This put us in a 2-game winning streak, possibly the best win of the season against, it just so happens to be our state rivals. The Magic pulled away in the second half thanks to a terrific performance on the defensive end in the fourth quarter, holding Miami to just 6 points in the fourth, which tied a franchise record. The Magic were led by Terrence Ross with 25 points. Vucevic had another strong finishing with 20 points in the game, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. Last night's game was a little tough. Played against the Utah Jazz, 109-96. The Jazz came into the Amway as one of the NBA's hottest teams, and they showed why. Their three-point shooting was unstoppable. The whole night, especially in the fourth quarter, they were just shooting lights out. The Magic played hard, but we ended up being down by 1 heading into the fourth. The Jazz three-point shooting was too much for us to handle. Ross, however, led the way with 24 points. Vucevic scored 22 points and grabbed 13 rebounds. So a lot of good things, but, a lot of bad things as well. What do you guys think of the games?
Well, I think Atlanta was definitely the heartbreaker to start it out. We should have dominated that. And our third quarter coming in from halftime from the Atlanta game was just, we looked terrible. Energy, defense, and just one of those nights that nothing could get going.
So for me, I cannot say anything negative about the week, except like Mike said, just the game against the Hawks. We actually battled against every team that we played this week. We beat the Heat. We beat the Wizards. Even last night, we played really well through the first 3 quarters. That fourth quarter was something we just could not control. I mean, they were hitting everything, the Jazz, that is. But that Hawks game was really something that we had it. We were up 18 points. We were playing well. And then we ended up losing that game. So we could easily have been 3-1 this week. Instead, we're 2-2. Every game matters. Now that we don't have Isaac going forward, every single win matters. That's one that I hope we don't regret at the end of the season.
Definitely agree with you, Al. We could have went 3-1 this week. It should have been a 3-1 week. That Atlanta loss was definitely a tough one. Now it continues to haunt the Magic that we're losing games that we're supposed to win. And the Atlanta game was pretty much what we're talking about here. The Miami game, I thought might be the best one of the season. I didn't expect for us to beat Miami. I thought they were going to hit us right in the mouth, and we actually hit them right in the mouth. So shout out to Orlando. And Utah was another close game where we could have beat Utah. We could have been 2-0 against Utah. Instead, we're heading out 1-2. But I'm satisfied with the 2-2 week.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. The 2-2 week was good. We didn't win the games that I thought we would win. And I know we talk about this repeatedly in saying that the Magic have to win the games that they're supposed to win, which they're notoriously terrible at. And I think we saw that again this week. They were supposed to lose to the Heat. I mean, everyone thought so. The Heat are on a roll, and we win that game. But then we lose to, like you said, an Atlanta team without Trae Young. And then you let Alex Len, who I believe was the leading scorer for Atlanta during that game, you let him go off on us. To me, that's unacceptable. You cannot let a role player, come in and be a primary scoring option for this team without a superstar and beat you. So
it's true.
Yeah, it's something that I've always said before, that if there's one thing that we have to do is beat the teams that we're supposed to beat. If we're serious about being respected in the league, if we're serious about making the playoffs, the one thing we cannot do is lose against an Atlanta Hawks team. Even more so if they don't have their best player. It's really at the point where it's embarrassing. That's why teams don't respect us. But at the same time, it's kind of the epitome of what our team is. We're the type of team that we'll lose against a team like the Atlanta Hawks without Trae Young, but we'll beat a team like the Miami Heat that have been balling out. They're currently the 3rd team in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
So that's kind of what our story has been, not just this season, but last season as well. We need to find a way that we're not matching our competition. We're setting the standard of what our competition is. And I think that's something that we still are struggling with, and we're going to continue to struggle with, even more so, without a player like Jonathan Isaac that we rely so much on the defensive end, which leads us into the juice. So we had mentioned earlier that during the Wizards game, Jonathan Isaac was taking the ball down from a fast break, Euro stepped, and kind of hurdled over Bradley Beal and hurt his leg, and he was carried off in a stretcher. So an MRI on the left knee of Orlando Magic forward Jonathan Isaac showed a severe sprain and bone contusion, and teams plan to reevaluate his status in approximately 2 months. League sources told ESPN. The good news is there was no structural damage to an ACL, MCL, or PCL. The bad news is that as of right now, they're saying that he is out indefinitely and could be out for the rest of the season. How much does this hurt this Magic team?
I think it's going to show our depth, especially from our bench and then in different positions. Obviously, the biggest loss is his defensive presence and what he's bringing. But now we're going to see really what exposes us bench-wise. I mean, if you look at the numbers of the week, defensively, we actually played pretty good, even with Isaac down. We're pretty consistent with the stats, but offense was inconsistent. And that's, seeing where those gaps are.
So, I mean, watching that game, it just sucked. It took the whole New Year's vibe and holiday vibe out of me. Like, it was just a hard pill to swallow in that moment. See him go out on a stretcher. I mean, automatically you knew something major that had happened to him. For us, it's going to be tough. Defensively, especially, we're going to be in trouble. We need people to step up, Gordon especially. We need MCW back as soon as possible. We need Aminu to get healthy as soon as possible. But I mean, you cannot replace what he was giving us. He was one of the top defenders in the NBA for a reason. Offensively, thankfully, he will not be missed that much. That's our biggest struggle right now. But definitely as a team, we got to collectively replace what he was giving us, which will not be too easy.
I know Jonathan Isaac hasn't officially been named an All-NBA defensive player, but I think we can all agree that's what he is to this team. So yes, he is going to be missed a lot in this team. Offensively, I believe we won't miss him too much. He's a fourth option in our team, still developing a shot. But to lose a player who we can all say that guarantees going to give it to us 100% on the defensive end, it was going to be a big blow. I believe we'll still be in the playoff hunt for sure, but we're just not going to have that guy to clean up our mistakes. If we get a player that blows by one of our perimeter players, and you got an Isaac right there towering, chasing down the block, so that'll definitely be missed for sure.
The interesting thing is that we're not the only ones that see him as an all-defensive player. When the report came out that he was injured, all-defensive player and Jonathan Isaac in the same sentence came out from the Shams and the Adrian Wojnarowski.
Right. Yep, that's a good point.
So he's definitely someone that was being put in position to be selected in those categories.
Right. I think you made a good point. I agree with all of you guys. J.I., like you guys said, is probably not going to be missed, much offensively. But even defensively, I'm not as afraid of what the future looks like for the Magic defensively without J.I., for the simple fact that without J.I. there, it allows Aaron Gordon to play, full-time four, where I think he's best defensively anyway. And I think we could see Aaron Gordon return to what his defense was looking like last year. If everyone remembers when AG didn't get a single vote or I think he got one vote for all defensive team, everybody was shocked because his defense was really good. We haven't seen that AG this year. And I think that, again, by him playing full-time four, it's going to allow him more opportunities, to kind of offset J.I. not being in there.
Yeah, and can we say a special thank you, J.I., for everything you've done, and hope you get back soon and a speedy recovery. We're behind you, man.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be missed, but believe it or not, to me, this kind of feels as if, hey, there's more shots to be taken. And I feel like these last two games, Terrence Ross has taken advantage of that. And he's been shooting really, really well. So, hopefully that this becomes an opportunity for other players to step up for sure. Yeah. Now, in other news, in the juice, Bobby Marks just reported that the Magic are one of a handful of teams that still have an open roster spot available. Orlando will also have until January 7th to guarantee the contract of Emil Jefferson. Now, Roy Perry of the Orlando Sentinel Sentinel had mentioned that with knee injuries to forwards Jonathan Isaac and Al-Farouq Aminu, that President of Basketball Operations Jeff Weltman has said that the team is having discussions about filling its open roster spot.
I think that'd be great. I like to see that young man from Lakeland come up, Mr. Johnson. Just give him a shot. He's balling out.
BJ Johnson.
Yes,
Al,
sir.
that's your guy.
That's my guy, man. I don't know what we're waiting for to call him up, to be honest with you. He is simply killing it. What is it, 36 points per game, the last 3 games in the G League? I understand the G League is not the NBA, but, man, if you can give me 12 points off the bench, add that to what DJ does and Ross does off the bench, I'll be happy. We just need a body, man, that can just put the ball in the basket. That's all we need.
Now, Al, would you be okay with replacing a player like Melvin Frazier with a BJ Johnson?
The simple question I'll ask the rest of the group here is, what has Emil Jefferson or Melvin Frazier Jr. done to earn their spot in the roster through 30-something games this season?
I'll be honest. I don't think that that's a fair question because Steve hasn't given them, a fair opportunity to prove their value. Emil Jefferson, I've been an Emil Jefferson fan since last year, and what BJ Johnson is doing, Emil Jefferson was dominating in a similar fashion last year, right? Because he won MVP for the G League. So I think that the G League gives, like this false kind of analysis of players because you could be really talented and you could be the best of the lower level. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate, to the NBA, especially on a team like the Orlando Magic where your offensive output is going to have to be at a high level. Otherwise, you're not going to look that good because there's no one else to take that offensive load from you. So I think that we should keep Emil Jefferson's contract. Melvin Frazier Jr. is one of those guys that, he's cold, he's hot, he's had a little more opportunity to show what he's capable of, and I'm not impressed. But I think Emil has the potential to be, a good fit on this team.
It's crazy to think that in the beginning of the season, especially when we picked up Chief Al-Farouq Aminu, that everyone was complaining that, hey, we have too many bigs, we have too many forwards. And now it kind of feels like we don't have enough forwards.
Right. That's a good point.
That's true.
Moving on to the next topic. So Kurt Helen of NBC Sports, he reported that the Lakers are interested in point guard DJ Augustine. I had said this. I had posted on social media that I think the Orlando Magic front office should have an automatic decline on any phone calls from Los Angeles.
100%.
I agree.
And, DJ plays so well. I'm a DJ fan, and he's doing. I like what he does for us.
Now there is an opportunity for him to leave. You don't think that it's better for us to cash out now instead of losing him for nothing?
Well, here's the thing. He's a leader on the team, and you can see he helps bring everybody together and some chemistry. Like seeing everyone go, seeing him retire his jersey in New Orleans, that's a special moment. And you can see on the court that he's definitely our general when he's out there. I mean, there's a lot of inconsistencies that happen, but I mean, he's always come up big for us when it matters.
I mean, what can the Lakers offer us that will make us want to trade DJ to them? Salary-wise, is that a lot they can give us to match a trade? And what else can we ask for of a backup point guard, knowing that Markelle needs that reliable backup point guard to be there, just in case he gets hurt again or he's not playing well. So that's what makes it hard. I would be okay with a trade if DJ is gone, if needed, because he's a free agent at the end of the year. But we got to get something back that makes sense. And I just think the Lakers don't have that.
Yeah,
I agree.
If we're going to lose Augustine, it better be something that's going to be worth getting a return. Other than that, it's like Alvaro said, DJ Augustine is Markelle Fultz' security blanket. At the end of the day, yes, Markelle Fultz has been in this league for about 3 years. This is his rookie season for us. So when things aren't going well, Augustine is that guy that comes in and is able to pick up the slack at times. Augustine is that other point guard in our team that's able to hit a three-point shot consistently for us. And like Whit said, he is a veteran. He is a leader in our locker room. So it's for us to lose a guy like that, I believe would be pretty crucial. I know he's been inconsistent this season, but he is a big time locker room presence, and he is Markelle Fultz' security blanket as
But
of
don't
right
you
now.
think? But don't you think that? And I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate. I'm taking Ant's spot. He usually plays devil's advocate, but we're doing this today. Maybe another veteran presence like Avery Bradley, who is on the Lakers. I think that's an option too. I don't know if they want DJ to the point where they would throw some assets this way, and I know they're limited because of their trade with New Orleans. But I think that is a conversation, that we can have just based on DJ's age, his contract coming up. I don't think it would be super hard, not just for the Lakers, for any team. I don't think it'd be too hard to pry DJ away from the Magic.
I think that when we traded away Elfrid Payton and they had announced that DJ Augustine was going to be a starting point guard moving forward, I think for the most part, the fan base was a little worried. And for him to lead this team last season into the playoffs, for him to have that big shot that he had over Toronto to at least get us a win away for game one, I think he brings so much value to this team. He knows the players, he knows the system, he knows the coach, that yeah, we may complain a little bit here and there about DJ Augustine, like we all do, right? But I'm not saying I'm ready to let him go. I like him as my second string point guard. I'm not saying that there's better options out there, but I'm a big DJ Augustine fan. If something were to happen with Markelle, I'm okay with him. I wouldn't mind him being our starting point guard in the event.
I agree with you.
I wouldn't be losing sleep. I think that he would still do a good job. He has his moments where he plays really well, and he has his moments that he struggles. It's a really long 82 season. Now, what player would make sense in Los Angeles for DJ Augustine? I don't really think that there's a viable option where, okay, you're trading DJ Augustine for this one specific player, right? What could end up happening is maybe a package deal, which leads us into our next segment. So for Pass or Shoot, our very first Pass or Shoot topic is there's been a lot of talks about, especially today, that the Lakers organization, they're open to listening to trade offers for Kyle Kuzma. Should the Magic look into Kyle Kuzma and bring him to Orlando? Could a package of DJ Augustine, maybe another player, be enough to bring a player like Kyle Kuzma and extras?
Hey, I'm going to say pass. I mean, I think he made it pretty clear he doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, I'm going to follow that up too. I'm going to pass. We would have to give up some picks to make that happen. I don't think DJ alone is going to make that worth it for the Lakers. But he's a guy that blasted our city publicly a couple of years back, something along the lines of who wants to play in Orlando. So why do we need him in Orlando? I'm happy with looking somewhere else and bringing somebody here that wants to play in Orlando.
But Al, you said some stupid stuff at 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, right?
Yeah. But still,
he's a young kid in LA, happy that he's being in LA, was one player shy of almost being traded to New Orleans.
I just don't see him as a fit in Orlando. So you would then have Gordon, Isaac, Okiki, and Kuzma playing the forward spots, and Aminu on the list too. I'm good with big guys, man. I just need us to get some guards for next year.
For me, I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't mind him. Yes, I know he said he doesn't want to be in Orlando, so I don't see that happening. But we can't deny that he is talented.
He didn't say that he doesn't want to be in Orlando.
I think he said something to the effect. He said something to the effect of, or you could play in Orlando and like never be spoken about.
But kind of that comment pretty much expresses how he feels about Orlando. I don't know. I think he's a guy who we can use his talent. He's a great point shooter. With what we have in our roster already, we do have all these forwards. To mind you, some of them are injured right now, but I honestly wouldn't mind for the right price to get a guy like Kuzma on our team. He's young. He can develop with these other young guys as well.
He is a player that is better offensively than he is defensively. He's 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan. He can put the ball in the hoop, and it's something that the team really needs right now. It's hard with having Chuma Okeke on your radar because I'm not sure how I feel about really counting him yet. You really don't know what you have. He is a player that we obviously drafted him for a reason. We see him as part of our future. He fits in the organization of what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. He seems like a player that's a good character first type player. Lengthy, can play the 3, can play the 4, but what do you really have with him? And are you really willing to overlook an opportunity because of a player like Chuma Okeke that, again, you just don't know what you have?
So I'll say there's a couple things. So yes, Kyle Kuzma is an offensive player who possibly can benefit Orlando. Second, I wouldn't just say hell no to Kyle Kuzma in Orlando for the simple fact that he was on an interview. He was joking, having a good time, and said something that was to disparage the city and the team of Orlando. That, to me, to have that conversation at 22, 23 years old sounds like something that a front office would pull him in and be like, we need a higher level of maturity from you so that this does not happen again. That could have been Orlando that he mentioned. That could have been any other city. And I don't think, there's differences. There's other players around the league that I'm sure feel the same way. They just don't say it in an interview. So I don't think that's a good, judging factor for whether Kyle Kuzma should play here or not. But what I will say is that I personally don't think that he's a player that would fit into the culture of Orlando. I think when Orlando goes after guys, yes, length is something that they look for, and Kyle Kuzma fits that profile. But they also go for, mild-mannered guys that wouldn't even put themselves in a situation to be in an interview saying those type of things. So while what he said is not the issue, the fact that he didn't recognize, the audience or who was listening to that and put himself in that situation is concerning.
But don't you think that that's the issue, Justin? That we always go after the same type of player, the mild manner, the really good character. When is it that we're going to bring in a player that is gritty? Our most grittiest player that we have is Evan Fournier.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's not necessarily about that, in my opinion. It's about doing it with the right person. You don't just want to bring in a guy here who's going to be a loudmouth and bring negative attention to the city. You want to take that chance on a guy who's a franchise-altering kind of guy, not a guy who's going to come off the bench and give us 10, 12 points a game. And I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure that he's regressed every year since rookie season, not just in points, but rebounds. His turnovers are higher. His steals per game are less. So I'm not for Kyle Kuzma playing in Orlando, but again, not just because of what he said, but when I look at him as a total package, I don't think he would fit here.
As being the devil's advocate, as you said, Justin, I would shoot on in and say, why not? Give it a try. This kid is playing. He's averaging 13 points a game, and this is on a roster with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So imagine what he can do with a team of Nikola Vucevic and.
So what is he going to take? Is he going to take AG's spot?
Maybe.
No, I'm not an AG. I don't even like AG like that, and I think AG can be better. And I still would not like Kyle Kuzma taking over for AG. I think is a bad idea in my opinion.
They're averaging close to the same amount. Their production is pretty similar. The real difference is that AG is more flashy. He's going to give you more highlights. He's going to put you on ESPN a little bit more, and he has a good character.
I think that goes a long way.
But do you think that offensively, Aaron Gordon is a better player than Kyle Kuzma? Offensively? I
think if Aaron Gordon played a traditional power forward role and stayed in his game, I do think so. I do think he is a bit better player than Kyle Kuzma. When Aaron Gordon is trying to do everything and be the star of the team, no, I don't think so. But when he plays within himself, I think that he is currently and has a much higher ceiling than Kyle Kuzma at this point in time.
The Magic do need something right now, especially to replace Jonathan Isaac. So the next pass or shoot And this is a really important pass or shoot. Realistically, are the Orlando Magic still a playoff team without the Minister of Defense?
I think they are.
You think they are?
Yeah, I think the East is weak enough. I think these guys have enough time together to start linking some stuff together, and I think they can turn it on and get it going. They'll be all right. Once we get through this injury bug for the next month or so, and the next month is going to be tough. If we can keep our head above water the next month, I think we got it.
I'm going to shoot as well. I mean, I agree. I think what Whit said makes sense. We are still a good team. We're still going to win the games that we're supposed to win, or beat those teams that we're supposed to beat once in a while, to be good enough to be in the 8th seed, 7th seed, in that range by the end of the season. Now, that is because, thankfully, the bottom of the East is a complete joke. And, like every other night you're seeing the Pistons, the Bulls, the Hornets go on a 3-4 game losing streak. So all we have to do is not go in a funk and lose, 5 in a row, 6 in a row, and we should be fine.
I agree with both of you guys, honestly. One plain simple fact, we're in the East. Behind us, there isn't really much competition. I believe we can still catch the 7th spot, honestly. And then, I don't know, you guys know that the Orlando Magic are end of the season team. Isaac's probably not going to be with us till the end of the season if he makes it. So usually at the end of the season for the Magic, that's when we play our best basketball. So I don't think offensively we'll struggle that much. Without him defensively, it'll be a challenge. But for sure we'll be a playoff team.
I think there's a couple players specifically that hold the key to whether Orlando makes the playoffs or not. And again, that's at this point because we don't know what's going to happen when trade deadline comes around. But I think, like I said earlier, I think if AG steps up defensively and fills those shoes in for JI, I think that's a big key. I think when MCW comes back and we see obviously his defensive presence on the court, I think that's a big key as well. And if Terrence Ross stays, shooting at the level that he's shooting for the majority of the remainder of the season, then yes, I think Orlando can make the playoffs. But if those things don't happen, if MCW is at a high level defensively, but Aaron Gordon hasn't taken any step and T. Ross gets cold again, I don't think Orlando would make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm shooting, but it's more because of how bad all the teams behind us are, more so than what I think that we're able to do. If you really take a look at who's behind us in the Eastern Conference, you have the Magic at 8, you got Hornets at 9, Bulls at 10, Pistons at 11, Wizards 12, Cavaliers 13, Knicks 14, and then the Hawks 15. Those are really bad teams, like terribly bad. The only team that I might be kind of worried with is maybe the Pistons, just because they've shown that they can play at a high level. We competed with them last season, but they're right now thinking about trading Andre Drummond. So how long is that going to last? And if they trade a player like Andre Drummond, what does that mean for Blake Griffin? So I can see us being the 8th seed and still making the playoffs just by default in itself. Because I really will say another team that would beat us out for the 8th seed.
And I will say that this might be a little bit of a hot take, but we're 16-20 right now. Atlanta is 8-28, right? That's an 8-game difference. If Atlanta picks up an Andre Drummond, you get a healthy Trae Young back. John Collins is back in the lineup. There's still a lot of games to be played. And I'm not saying that Atlanta will make the playoffs, but I'm just saying if they pick up that caliber of a 5, they beat us with Alex Len, guys. Like, they pick up that caliber of a 5 and you have shooters, I think they can make a push toward the end of the season. So Orlando is not in a position where they could look at the rest of the East and say, oh, regardless of how bad things get, we got this. They, because they're in a position where things could change really quickly.
Yeah, and it really comes down to, with losing Jonathan Isaac, everyone just has to step up, from our point guard to every single person. Our bench needs to do better. Recently, Markelle has been having a bad span of games, other than his 16-point game that he had recently. Is Markelle Fultz starting to worry you after a series of poor offensive performances in this past week?
I'm going to pass. I mean, it seems like it's a mind thing with him right now. It seems like he's passive. It seems like he's not attacking. I don't know the reason why. I think the offense looks the same, except I am seeing a little more of him bringing the ball up and then handing it off again to the Fourniers and the Gordons. But I think what he brings to our team still is big enough that it's not only offensively that matters. It's the 6 steals that he got the other night. It's the 6 rebounds or a couple of assists that he picks up here and there when it matters. So while I'm not concerned yet, I hope that he goes back to being the attacker that he was early the season, which was get a pick and roll, dunk on people, just go to the basket strong, get fouled. He's still hitting his free throws, so that's a good sign. But it is concerning to a degree, but not enough that I'll be concerned right now.
Do you think maybe the reason why we don't see the aggressiveness offensively anymore could be that maybe there's pain again in that shoulder? Maybe there's just not a report of it because of how much publicity it would get?
I don't think so. I think he's playing a lot more minutes he has in a few years, and this is that time where you get some fatigue going. There's probably is some pain, and also teams are adjusting to him. That's my thoughts.
I'm gonna pass. Like I said earlier, this is his rookie season, I believe. He still hasn't had so many games under his belt. There's gonna be a lot of learning curves for him during the season. I believe he's still shaking off a little rust. He's still trying to, find a flow of an NBA game. Offensively, I mean, we knew that, he may struggle offensively at times. He's not a great shooter as of now. But it's like Al said, there's other things that he does. He's a hustle guy. He's a big guard. He's able to rebound. He's able to defend. He had 6 steals the other night. He's a great playmaker. So offensively, I mean, we're going to see those. We're going to get more of those questions where we're questioning his offensive game. But I believe when he gets a full healthy summer of training, getting up more shots next season, maybe we can question that if we don't see that he's made that improvement on offense.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm going to pass. I think going back to what Witt said, he's adjusting to his minutes load. He's the primary point guard on this team now based on minutes, per game. He didn't play regulation, if any, basketball for 10, 11 months. We're 3 months into the season now. You got to believe. And we've had a pretty tough schedule compared to the rest of the league. And there's been a lot of travel as well. I think it's fatigue. I think when we'll see what Markelle is going to be, is probably going to be after All-Star Weekend, where he could kind of gather his mind a little bit, rest up a little bit, and get back, get that rest so that he can come, full speed, knowing that he has to close out the season strong, knowing that this team is going to need him offensively and his playmaking ability. So I think that rejuvenating period during All-Star break is going to be super important for Markelle. But as of right now, I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, I'm not worried either. I agree with you with that. It might just be fatigue. This is really his first season where he's playing as consistent and the amount of minutes that he's playing. I think that would put a toll on anyone's body. So I'm not worried about Markelle. I think he's going to be all right. And he's still learning. He's still getting to know his teammates. That's not something that you just learn in the first 20, 30 games. It does take some time to do that.
Yeah, you can see that when his shot drops just a little short. That mid-range he used to splash. It's a little short here, a little short there. To me, that tells me a little fatigue's kicking in.
And truthfully, I'll take it. You had some reporters out there last year that they didn't even think that he was going to play this season, let alone the amount of games that he's playing right now. So,
yeah.
Kudos to the Magic front office for being patient with them, taking their time, and getting him healthy. But guys, let's get it off your chest. All right. So obviously there's a wide range of the comments from different perspective from different fans out there. So let's jump into the very first one. So this one comes from _Cam.Wilson_ from Orlando Magic HQ on Instagram. Pretty fine playoff team with growing roster. would like us to find a future shooting guard, perhaps use Vooch and or Fournier to get a shooting guard.
I like that thought. I mean, we definitely need a shakeup. I mean, we've been saying this for, I think, 3 to 4 weeks in a row now. The Three Amigos, as we've assigned that name to them now, something's got to give. We've had this team for too long. I would love to see, a Fournier and Vooch package. I don't know what it will take for a shooting guard that can be our go-to scorer. Again, I always say it. Imagine a Bradley Beal in a Magic jersey for the next few years. With Isaac, with Fultz, just whatever it takes. If it is one of those two guys, we got to make a change.
Evan and Vooch, it got something special going on there. I think we should be going after a solid third scoring option that's consistent. When the offense breaks down, it kind of gets in there going. But I mean, Evans, I was watching him last night. He was holding people accountable, talking to his teammates. Vooch, I mean, he's, to me, the all-star again this year, the way he's playing. And I mean, yeah, it's not the flashiest. It's not. It can be inconsistent, but I like to see another, point guard, center duo in the NBA be as lethal as those two.
For me, I'm kind of 50-50. I would like to see Vooch stay a little bit, maybe a Gordon and Fournier. Sorry, Justin, I know I said Fournier, but we do need that, that hot, that hot guard, that somebody that just sticks out. A Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine. We've tried a while with Evan Fournier. If we could get somebody like that can legit, score off the dribble, can legit take over a fourth quarter, then I'm up for it.
So I'm just gonna 19 points per game, 2.7 rebounds per game, 3.1 assists per game. If you're talking about shooting guards, come on, 19 points per game, 2.7 rebounds per game, 3.1 assists per game.
Justin, I already know where you're going with this.
Wait, it's not the problem. It's not the problem. I think we can sit here and argue, I want flashier this, I want flashier that. And that conversation can be had. But when you look at the points production, the character on the court, who he is as a player and as a human, as a person, why would you want to send him somewhere else in hopes of getting somebody who's going to average 2 points more per game, 3 points more per game? That's not really going to help us. The problem is we're not moving the ball enough, right? Our pace is an issue. Our transition defense and offense is an issue. And our defense at the three-point line is an issue. You don't fix those things by trading an all-star and a potential all-star. That's just my opinion. So I'm going to I know it's not a pass or shoot topic, but I'm passing.
But you know what? You kind of make a valid point. And I say kind of just because you know how I feel about Evan Fournier. And the kind of point is how many shooting guards that are realistically available that we could trade for is better than Evan Fournier. You're right. He is averaging 19 points per game. Now, he didn't do that last season. He's doing that now. This is also a contract year for him, right? He's going to want to get paid, whether it be from us and whoever. He's going to want to get money, and now is a time where he's playing well. Now, if this was something that he was doing the last 2, 3, 4 years, then okay, he's playing the best basketball that he's ever played. The problem is that even though he's doing that, we're still not playing the way that we know this team can play. Now, I'm not putting that on Evan Fournier. If we're looking at our roster, I'm okay with our point guard. I'm okay with our small forward. I'm okay with our center. I'm okay with our shooting guard. It's our power forward that I have an issue with right now. And it's consistency has always been the main thing attached to a player like Aaron Gordon. He knows what he's able to do. We know what he can do. He's just not doing it.
Right. And I also want to throw in another kind of fun fact. ESPN has Evan Fournier ranked as the 11th best SG in the league. Just saying. The thing that I have an issue with
we can put up numbers all we want to. We can talk about stats all we want to. What's Vucevic and Fournier giving us in 6 years? And Vuce was an all-star last year, by the way. Yeah, we made the playoffs. That's great. But here we are. Now his guy's $100 million. Fournier is about to get paid a decent amount if he stays here. To be a what? An 8 seed again next year? I mean, we're hoping too much out of two guys that have proven. Unfortunately, I understand that they've put up good numbers the last couple of years for us. But what's our ceiling with those guys? Unfortunately, we've seen it, and it's
okay. But what's our floor? What's our floor without them? I think if you trade Evan Fournier and Vooch, we're not making the playoffs.
No way.
Yeah, you
There's
trade
no way.
You trade those players, and obviously it depends on what you get back. You know, you're crossing the fine line of going through the whole rebuilding. Man, these last 4 or 5 years have been brutal. We've struck out in every luck there has been in the draft, in the players that we've selected. The only real good player that we've drafted that, you know, was a win for us is Jonathan Isaac. Everything else hasn't really panned out. So are we willing to go back to that route?
Well,
I don't think so.
I haven't been the biggest Bamba fan, but the past two games, especially against Miami, he's been playing really well off the bench. And I like the Bamba Birch matchup on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
We offensively, the inconsistencies are totally there because we lacked some shooting from the outside. We lack the guy got the ball 4 times in a row. You know it's going to him and lit us up. And
it's usually their best shooter that's open always.
Gosh, I'm sitting behind the Utah bench screaming. He's getting the ball. We all saw, the whole arena saw it, and sure enough, and he lit us up.
So
Whit?
Just going back to what Whit was saying really quick. If you're talking about, you know, our offensive struggles and not being consistent, not having a guy who we could go to down the stretch and all of these things, I think we're kind of in a weird position where we're stuck, right? Because if we needed somebody to kind of just like get dirty, get physical, and grab us 2, 4, 6 points, Aaron Gordon and Vooch are supposed to be those guys, right? Now, we're banking on the fact, I understand that J.I. is spectacular defensively and, you know, he's moving better and he's hesitating less in transition and all of these things. The only way Orlando gets better is when J.I. takes that offensive lead.
Yeah.
Because regardless of how good his defense is, if he's only averaging 8, 9, 10 points per game, that he's playing the three. Offensively, there's a lot of threes who give us more points than that. You know, that we could, and I'm not saying trade J.I. at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying there are guys that are right now better than J.I. that we can make a move for. We're hoping that J.I. makes that jump next year so that he can be one of those top threes in the league. But as of right now, we're stuck because as long as we keep J.I. in our offense, that's going to be a sore point for us. And the fact that AG isn't producing, that adds on to that.
But you've seen the spurts. You've seen the aggressiveness from Jonathan Isaac, the way that he's able to put the ball on the floor, his mid-range jumpers, is when he does shoot the 3-point, the way he drives to the basket, that Euro step. So you see a lot of the flashes. We're just not seeing the ball going to the hoop. But I think that with time, you're going to see the efficiency. You're going to see the consistency. It just takes a little time for that to happen.
I agree.
Hopefully he stays healthy. Let's jump into the next one. So the next one comes from Orlando Magic Reddit, Hoyken, Florida 28, who says, how many more years is his front office going to ignore the bench and offensive talent in the draft and free agency? So reading that, I don't really think that is our front office ignoring. I think that's the wrong word to use. It's never about them ignoring. I think it's about them really trying to see what it is that they have, analyzing what they have, analyzing what's available, and seeing if what's available better than what we have. And I think that's been the biggest struggle for them. You know, if you're looking at the draft at the time, if you really think about it, Mo Bamba was the right player to pick up. I wasn't mad with the draft pick. We're not getting what we expected. We're not getting what we're seeing or what we wanted to see. but we've always known that Mo Bamba was going to be a project.
I agree. And I always tell you that our front office staff I think have been doing pretty good as considering what they inherited over the past few years. And I think it's a tough situation the whole way through. Like you can't just keep turning this team over and flushing things and bringing it back and out. You got to think of it from a more organic perspective of, let's enhance the parts where we're at. And as far as the bench goes, you don't want to be building a team, your whole franchise around a draft unless you get lucky. But it's a time thing. It's tough.
I think
I would honestly. Oh, go ahead, Al.
Sorry, I was gonna say that I think what Ant said makes sense. Yeah, I think what we've been doing is kind of just judging what we have, kind of looking at, hey, what kind of talent do we have in our roster? But I think we're due for the whatever system we have in place to switch and start looking for those guys that can put the ball in the basket now. There's been so many players in the draft, especially late in the draft, that we could have drafted that have proven that can score in the NBA and that are doing it right now. But again, we chose to go with athletic backup, small forwards and whatever, big guys. I think the time is now. Now we know what we have. I would love to see 2020 draft and on and free agencies to be the time where we start picking up some offense, because obviously that is what we're struggling with. And you said earlier, we're 30th again in offense in points per game. It's a major weakness of this team, and it has been for the past few years. Now we know what we have. Let's really try to fix over the next few years.
I think when you look at our bench, right? If I told you that we're gonna have a bench with DJ Augustine as our starting point guard, T. Ross as a small forward, right? We could play a 1-2 at the 2, Al Farouk Aminu and Mo Bamba. You wouldn't think that this would be a bad bench. I think the problem is, and I know that it's hard to throw coaches under the bus and all of this. I think it's that Steve has not figured out how to play these guys to their potential and what they're best at. Just DJ, T. Ross, Awandu, Bamba, like those, Aminu, those are all guys who could run. That's the bench. There's no reason why we should be playing a half-court game with runners.
Yep.
And ultimately, until that changes, it doesn't matter if you have somebody who could shoot or can't shoot. If you're slowing down the offense with guys who need to play fast, you're not going to get the desired results. And I think the same thing is happening with our starting lineup. And while Clifford might not have to be fired, he has to be open to trying a faster paced game. What's the worst that could happen? We lose? We're losing now.
Yeah.
Really good point. All right. So this upcoming week, the games that we have had, thank you to everyone that shared their thoughts on Get Off Your Chest on the Orlando Magic Reddit, Facebook, Magic HQ on Instagram, Twitter, OZone Pod. Appreciate everyone's feedback. But jumping into the week ahead, we're actually, for the sake of time, we're going to add the week ahead and the closing out statements together. So the week ahead, we have Monday versus Brooklyn, Wednesday versus Washington, and then the beginning of our West Coast trip, Friday at Phoenix. We mentioned that we're going to call Brooklyn to be our game of the week. And stay tuned, because this upcoming week we have our winners and losers.
Yes.
And we said that we were going to do what do we call it? A loser's reward.
Yes.
We got something fun that we're going to put together, and it's going to be a really good introduction to our next podcast. But who do you guys have for this week ahead, and what are your closing thoughts?
I think we can win all 3 games this week. They're all 3 games we can win. Brooklyn is they're on a losing streak, so we got to be cautious with them. But they're definitely beatable with what's going on there. That we play Washington well, and we could beat Phoenix in Phoenix. So I'm going with the win with the Nets. The keys are going to be that we stop that person at the hot hand at the 3-point line, make them pass it to their 3rd or 4th offensive option, and we move the ball and attack. We'll be there.
I'm going to be right on cue with Whit. I think that we go 3-0 this week. being cautious, I'll be 2-1. It is the Magic after all. But I do think we win against the Nets tomorrow. Watch out for Joe Harris. We've been struggling big time guarding the 3-point line. That's a kid that can light it up from 3-point range. But the Wizards, we should be able to beat. The Suns at home scare me a little bit. But again, the Nets game, I do think we have it. And by the way, huge game. If we win that game, we'll be tied for the 7th seed, which again, every game matters from now till April.
I got us beating Brooklyn for our game of the week. I think we could go 3-0, but I don't think it's more of that. I think we will go 3-0. We need to go 3-0. We do have a tough road schedule ahead. We're going to play the 2 Los Angeles teams. We're going to be on a 6-game road trip. We need to start off this week hot. We got 2 home games before we go to Phoenix, so we need to be 3-0 before we actually go deep into our road trip. I think we need it. I think we'll start off 3-0.
I hate to be a pessimist.
There's always one.
There's always one. But I think Orlando goes 1-2.
I think we 2. Justin.
Yeah.
Against who?
I think we lose to Brooklyn. And I think we lose to Phoenix. I think we beat Washington. As of right now, I think that I think there's issues. And when you see the Magic beat a team like Miami, you get a little bit of hope, and you think that it's temporary and the guys are going to get through it. But I think we don't have enough offensive power, and those are high scoring teams. So yeah, I think Orlando goes 1-2, and for the game of the week, I think Orlando loses.
For me, I think this is without Jonathan Isaac. Obviously, I think it's a really good opportunity for us to go 3-0. We had Al, you had mentioned before we started the podcast that Chris LeVert was going to be out. Kyrie Irving is out. I'm not a fan of the Brooklyn roster. I think that on paper, obviously, this is a team that on paper means absolutely nothing. But I think Brooklyn is a win for us. So you can put me down for that. Wizards, we've been controlling them and destroying them the whole entire season so far. So I'm going to put that as an automatic dub. Markelle Fultz likes to go off against the Wizards. And then Phoenix, I don't like Phoenix, so I'm going to go with us winning. So I'm putting us 3-0. My closing thoughts is I'm curious to see or how long that we'll start hearing what the next rumor is, right? So the NBA, we just passed the deadline, or not the deadline, but the mark where we're able to sign 10-day contracts. So we're able to do that now. I'm curious to see what the Magic do with that open roster spot, or if we'll start to hear more. We've already started listening to Lakers being interested in DJ and other things. I'm curious to hear what names we'll start hearing the Magic tied into in this upcoming week, because I feel like we're getting close to that time where we'll start to hear certain things.
And not only that, but we're actually tomorrow. We're exactly 1 month away from the trade deadline. So we have 4 weeks here to not only add a player and make up for that loss of JI, but also what do we do with Fournier? What do we do with the rest of the team? So it'll be a fun 4 weeks. So our next 4 episodes should be really, really fun.
So I'll say, just going back to the whole Brooklyn thing really quick, while Kyrie is not playing, I think this allows Spencer Dinwiddie to, be a primary option. And I think Spencer Dinwiddie is going to be entering a point in his career where he becomes that guy. So I think you don't want to sleep on him. Rodions Kurucs obviously is really good, and Joe Harris is really good. I think they're going to shoot the lights out because, again, we have issues closing out on the 3-point shooters. And I think that's why Brooklyn might get this win. But, yeah, that would be my closing thoughts as well. I think for the next 4 weeks, I think Orlando is going to be mentioned in a lot of trade rumors. Reason being is we have assets. We have players that, if they were on other teams, would be really good, like an Evan Fournier, for example. Could you imagine Evan Fournier on an LA Lakers team where all he has to do is sit at the corner and shoot threes? So I think teams will be trying to pry some of those guys away, but I don't think Orlando moves any significant pieces.
I don't think they will either, but it's still fun to hear the different scenarios. It's no secret that changes need to be made, whether they're small changes or big changes. I'm just curious to see what happens.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, I appreciate Everyone coming on virtually. Thank you to everyone listening at home. And that's a wrap for us. Peace.
Deuces.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans.
Be sure to visit our website, theozonepod.com, and remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.